Alright, what's poppin', people? We are back. And today, we're covering Scyther. As a little Scyther. So, Scyther's history in Inu isn't the most extensive, I wouldn't say. As we think back to all the older generations, there aren't really too many tiers where Scyther's been consistently great in Inu. There have been points and spots where it's been a really strong mon, but it's lacked long-term relevancy. The best example I can think of this is in Generation 8, Scyther had a couple points where it was actually like really potent. If you think back to when we first got the Isle of Armor DLC, for example, naturally since Scyther is a NFE Pokemon, it was immediately skydropped into Inu. And yeah, it was really broken. People viewed it as just Ninjask, but on crack at the time. Just a severely amplified version of it. Because although you're not nearly as fast, you were significantly stronger. You had knockoff, you had roost. You were a better wall breaker because you had overall superior coverage. You weren't just limited to being a pivot spam that eventually cleaned up late game. And so yeah, it was like swiftly banned. And then the next time we saw it wasn't until sometime after the Crown Tundra DLC. And, you know, by that point, okay, not really that dude anymore. I think by that point, people just valued Ninjask even more, because everyone was like, well, Scyther just can't really wall break too effectively, so why would I use it instead of Ninjask, where I can at least just pivot forever, have my speed advantage so I can always safely pivot, you know, protect versus a faster starter if I need to. And then I still have great late game potential because I'm so fast, and I just find a Sword Stance versus something that's choice locked or that can't OHKO me. So, it's definitely been a very rocky road, I would say, for Scyther across the generations. But right now, Scyther kind of slept on as a threat, I feel. It's a Pokemon that I remember seeing that we had dropped to us when Inu was made, and my first thoughts were, there's no way this Pokemon isn't obscenely broken, right? That's why I looked into its move pool, and I was looking for what moves it lost, and naturally, okay, it lost Knockoff. Well, that's unfortunate. Oh, it lost Roost too. Oh. But it gained some really cool tools, and we're going to cover those tools, of course, in this little set spotlight. The two most important, and maybe the only relevant ones, period, I would have to check, are Aerial Ace, not Aerial Ace, Close Combat, and Trailblaze. So what do these moves do? Well, naturally, Scyther's best set is something with Sword Stance, and these two moves really make Sword Stance such shine. Close Combat is just incredible coverage. You think about what's going to check a Scyther, well, you know, a Steel type or a Rock type are probably going to be the two things that jump to your mind first. Yeah, CC smashes them. Caparajah, dead. Berserker, dead. Cloth, dead. That's really the only three that matter. And then even electric types aren't safe in general because Terra Fighting CC is so strong. Jolteon? No. Electros? Good night. You're really looking at just things like Rotom, and then the other Rotoms too, as mons that can consistently switch into Scyther's attacks. And even then, regular Rotom does not want to deal with potential Trailblaze. This move, of course, gets a Technician boost, so it's decently strong. And Scyther really likes the speed boost. You think about a lot of the common fast Pokemon in the tier. I mean, Jolteon does threaten you. Choice Scarf Passimian, I mean, that can threaten you. Especially, you know, if you're pre-Terra, it has Rock Slide to potentially deal with you. After you use your Terra, I mean, it just close combats you and sends you to the Shadow Realm. Something like a Choice Scarf Bombardier could be a problem otherwise, or a Choice Scarf Braviary even. Or if we keep the train going, a Choice Scarf Honchkrow. You think about, like, Lycanroc. That one's always kind of problematic, but you got Terra Fighting for that. So that's really cool. These moves just really complement, though, this kind of set. And they definitely make up for, you know, losing Knockoff, which is otherwise just a great tool for the entire game, right? You know, if you think about, like, maybe what Swords and Scyther would run otherwise, you'd probably be seeing, like, Knockoff, Aerial Ace, and then maybe, you know, Roost or U-Turn still. Maybe you'd also see, like, a normal 3 attacks Roost set unlocked with, like, U-Turn, Knockoff, Aerial Ace, just for overall utility. Instead, we now see Scyther dedicating a lot more commonly to just this full-on, I am trying to sweep you mentality. Instead of doing a whole bunch of things at once, it, more dedicates to this one role. It's still decent in earlier stages of the game, of course, because Scyther's a really strong Pokemon. 110 attack's nothing to scoff at, and if you force a switch, you can always Sword Stance up and just try to attack. I mean, you could potentially just chunk out something like a Sandaconda for a teammate, for example. Chunk out something like a Driftblim, even. Potentially, KOing it if it's low enough. So, I think there's still a decent amount of use for Scyther in those earlier stages of the game, too. So it's not like it's only a dedicated sweeper, but you definitely see it played like one more often nowadays. I will shout out this set. I think U-Turn is still really good on Scyther last. It's kind of like turning it into Budget Ninjask in a way here, where you still have so much immediate attacking power that you force switches pretty consistently. You're always drawing in the Sandacondas or the Rotoms, for example. And so, being able to just consistently pivot on them with U-Turn is pretty valuable. And I mean, realistically, when you're trying to sweep with Scyther, Aerial Ace and CC are the only two moves that you're going to be using anyway. That's not really a big deal if you drop Trailblaze. Naturally, Trailblaze helps a lot against Revenge Killers, like we had mentioned. Again, Jolteon, Passimian being two of the most prevalent fast mons, both of them having a really good Scyther matchup as well. Feels weird to say Passimian does, but again, Rock Slide pre-Terra, CC post-Terra, pretty nice. So, losing out on Trailblaze does suck, but it's not the end of the world. I think there is still a decent argument to be made for U-Turn. And now I'm going to cover this set real quick too, because it's not a super common set, but it's one that I've used a little bit myself, and I do actually kind of like it. And that is going full utility on Scyther. I mentioned earlier that Scyther doesn't really do this kind of set anymore after losing Roost, but with NU's very limited pool of defoggers, this set can actually end up being kind of appealing on certain teams. If you want... Think about it like this. What's your competition as a defogger? It's Braviary, which is not really regarded too highly at the moment, with how many electric types are around in the format, and how the Oricorios are generally just viewed as as better defoggers because of their fighting resistance. And yeah, the Oricorios are your other one. And those mons have the resistance to Passimian CC, so that it's really valued, so that you can find real safe opportunities coming in Fog. They still have U-Turn, they still have Revelation Dance, they could type change and just be annoying that way. But Scyther kind of differentiates itself, despite its lack of recovery, by just, having more incentive to run offensive EV spreads. I mean, bulky Scyther, there's no reason to run it. You don't have recovery, why am I doing that? And so, what you get is a really strong pivot that, when it forces a switch, could potentially just throw off a defog. And as we've seen with a lot of NU teams anyway, we're seeing people run multiple boots Pokemon, a lot of mons that are, levitating or don't take full damage from Stealth Rock, for example. So, you don't end up needing reliable removal on every team. It's also kind of hard to force it onto every team if you want to differentiate between your builds. So, I mean, what am I running then? Driftblim, Oricorio on every team? That's kind of boring at a point. So you try and compensate with other ways, and I think Scyther's a pretty cool option for that. Just given it's pretty unique compared to the other defoggers. Well, they usually run something more bulky. Scyther just says, I'll run offensive. I think this kind of set works decent on Spikes teams even, where you build with the mentality of, I want to keep my Spikes. I have a spin blocker even, just for the occasional spinner. But if I do need to defog, for whatever reason, here's a Scyther. Probably never using this move, but just in case. And I will throw out a potential alternative Terra option. I think Ground is okay. At the end of the day, you mostly value the rock resistance, I think, if anything. Ground gives that, but Ground also gives you an immunity to Volt Switch. This isn't a Pokemon that I think you should ever be Terra-ing with, so it's not the most important, but I think being able to Terra versus something like a Jolteon, as it goes for Thunderbolt or Volt Switch, and then just, CCing it in the face, probably doing 80% to it, there is value to that. And that's gonna be it for this one, though, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope y'all have been trying out Scyther as well. Let me know if you've got any, good experiences using the Pokemon. What, are there other sets y'all have been trying? Maybe see a choice item set, for example. I hope y'all have been enjoying your day, though. Hope y'all keep enjoying your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's the weekend now. It's time for rest. Recuperate. Recover. Etc. I'll catch you next time. Peace.